Welcome back to my video series on Action PC Football. From this point forward, you're not going to see a lot of my face. Most of the things that I'm going to show you are going to be more technical and will be on the computer screen. We have a lot to cover, so let's get to it. I'll be using play analysis to show you the majority of the things. As you can see, I've already made a copy of the Football 2017 league file. Let's talk for a minute about some basic strategies that you would use before playing your opponent. After decades of playing strat-o-matic football, I switched to Action PC football in 2011. It took me a solid year to flush the Somball strategy out of my system. I flailed around for a good while in 2011. I was in two leagues, Spiffle, SPIFL, where I went 0-16, and the UFFL, where I was 2-14. That really irritated me, because both teams were much better than that. Let's have a look at player stats. And when we're in the off season and we're building our teams, everybody looks at defensive ratings and salaries, etc. But they seem to ignore the secondary stats. Let's start by looking at the New England Patriots defense. And their defensive line, which I've sorted by stuffs, this column right here. And if you look at their basic defense, you can see their starting front four: Flowers, Guy, Wise, and Brown. All right. And we're going to go to play analysis. We're going to set Philadelphia as the offense and set New England as a defense. Now let's look at LeGarrette Blount on an off-tackle right. Make a note of those numbers, especially the 91% gain. Now I'm going to exit this. I'm going to go to New England, and I'm going to artificially inflate the four starting defensive linemen's stuff numbers. And I'm going to give them extraordinarily large numbers. I don't want to see what's really going to happen if he gets two or three or more stuffs. I want to find out if stuffs matter. So I'm going to go to a really high number and see how it affects things. So I've multiplied their numbers tenfold. Now we'll go back to play analysis. And we'll look at Blount, off tackle right. His yards per carry average has stayed the same, but his gain percent chance has dropped to 84% because there's a higher probability that he's going to get stuffed behind the line of scrimmage. Now don't fret, that's not all negative for LeGarrette Blount. So let's think of this in terms of the NFL, just common logic. If the defense is rushing hard and they're pushing into the backfield and they're going after the running back, there's a greater opportunity for them to stop the guy behind the line of scrimmage. But if he gets past those initial rushers, there's fewer players in the field to keep him from extending the game. And that shows out here. 84% down from 91% means that he has a greater opportunity to lose yardage. But his average stays the same at 5.6, which means he has a greater opportunity to gain additional yardage on the play if he gains yardage. So as a secondary stat, we now know that stuffs count. They matter. Additional secondary stats are hurries, deflections, forced fumbles. Those three next to stuff. And I'm going to tell you through experience and through checking this out that they also matter. I'm going to leave it to you to get into play analysis and find out how much. It'll be good practice for you. Now I want to talk about another thing that's very important to consider when you're building your team. Durability ratings. And I'm not talking about the numbers, the 7, 8, 9, how many games they play. Everybody kind of gets that. What I'm going to talk about is the modifiers, the minus, the blank, and the plus modifier. As best I can tell, a negative modifier on a player's durability is going to allow that player to be in the lineup for about 30 plays per game without any fatigue. They'll fatigue faster once they go above 30, and that's an average number of plays per game they're allowed to play. So if they're able to play 10 games in a season, you can think that they'll be good for about 300 plays through the course of the year. How you use them is up to you. A blank modifier is about 45 plays per game, and a plus modifier is about 60 plays per game. Most teams in a 16-game season will use 1,000 plays on offense and on defense. This means on offense, if you like to run the ball 45% of the time, you'll need to have 450 carries available to get you through the season. I've loaded the AFC League, which is still a current league, still playing. I'm going to use someone in the league as an example for how not to build a team, especially if you think you want to win this year. Let's go over to Seattle at 5-6. And Rob, I'm so sorry to pick on you, but you deserve it. Let's look at their defensive line, and particularly look at the modifiers on his defensive line players. Pierre, Williams, Davison are all negatives. Davenport is a blank. Those are his 4 starters. It should be a good line. But what happens is Pierre, Williams, and Davison are only good to play about half of the game. If they play more than half of the game, they'll become more and more fatigued as the season wears on and be much more prone to injury. In many games later in the year, if these guys have been playing 40 or 50 snaps a game, they may only play 5 or 10 snaps in a game before they come out with a full game injury. Then look at his backups. If those 3 guys go out, who does he have to replace them? Key, Hurst, and anybody that's a 3. So there's a strategy to be had here. When you look at your opponent for an upcoming game, look at the durability modifiers on his front 7, his defensive line and his linebackers. If they have a lot of negatives on there, and he doesn't have a lot of good substitutes, you want to dink and dunk your way down the field, have long drives with a lot of short gains, and try to wear his defense out. Sounds just like the NFL. You wear out the defense. You keep them on the field. When they're down, you get the little cheesy subs come in, and then you go to town and you start ripping them up. The next thing you want to look at are the DBs. So go to the cornerbacks especially, and you want to find a team or find a player on that team who starts that has a negative penalty rating. When you get into those seemingly hopeless situations where you don't think you're going to be able to get a first down, chuck the ball at that guy with the negative penalty rating. The opportunity for a pass interference penalty and an automatic first down is a lot higher than you think it is. You already have the opportunity to possibly complete the pass and possibly get the first down, but you can add to it the pass interference penalties. Now I'm back to the LOC, and I'm going to offer up another idea for pregame scouting. As an example, I'm going to look at Denver. I go to their defensive backs, and I look and see who their nickel is. And the nickel cornerback on this team is Josh Norman. So I could be at a distinct disadvantage if I go to a 3-wide formation. He's got a lot of money invested in a third cornerback to act as his nickelback. And it's not going to help me when my third wide receiver is a 5 or 6 rated player. I'm going to be at a disadvantage. So when you play a team like this, it's best to throw from a pro set offense. If they do go to a nickel, you can catch them in it and have greater success running the ball. But what you want to do is not allow them to bring that nickel back onto the field unless you absolutely need multiple wide receivers. And in that case, get them to bring Norman in, throw the ball at him deep, and see if you can get that pass interference. So the basic thought there is to look at your opponent's defense and decide who sits when they go to a nickel or a dime. Now I'm going to pull up another tool to show you how to scout your opponent ahead of time, and it will give you greater understanding of who you're playing. I'm going to go to My Seattle Team, Reports, Scout. This page shows what I have done on offensive and defense through the 16-game season. All of these things that I've shown you are the steps that I took to try and become a better action PC coach. I invested a little bit of time. I looked at what successful coaches were doing. I studied their tendencies and their game plan. And I studied what I was doing to see if I had any unintended tendencies showing up in my play calling. Okay, now I'm back to play analysis. And I'm going to give you a couple of little tips, some things that you can look at to use as tools. Now let's say I want to test a play. I want to throw medium cross to Michael Crabtree, and I'm going to be in a 4-3 basic defense with Perry blitzing. And I want to see what's going to happen. So I'll come down here and run 10,000 plays. I call the play by double-clicking on the play that I want to run, Michael Crabtree, medium cross. Double-click. And it's running 10,000 plays. And there's the results. That's all it takes. The numbers across the top are the expected numbers, the expected results, and the numbers down the line are actually what happened. And you can look further down and see all 10,000 individual results all the way down the line. Other things that you could look at on offense have all these nice little buttons down here. What happens in a shotgun on a medium cross? What happens with a pistol? How about if we use play action? Now, if you use play action against a run, wow, you're going to do all right. You can roll out. You can check the results of any play with any modifier on the play that you want to use and see how that affects your team. Okay, as promised, here's a little something extra. Let's show you how to create and use player photos. So I'm going to go to the Chicago Bears in this copy of Football 2017. And you can see I don't have any player photos in here. There are several settings for you to look at when you want to do player photos. So the first thing we'll go to is Tools. And on the bottom left of this screen, down in the corner, it'll show you the default player photo names and the 4 formats that could be used. Last underscore first, first underscore last, etc. If you leave that blank, the default is last underscore first. Please leave it blank. If you do that, anybody else that generates photo packs, they will work in your league. The second thing to look at is Rules and Structure. And down again in the bottom left corner where it says Player Photos, it says Locate Player Photos in subfolder of DK Sports Data Football Player Photos. What that means is the game will create a folder under the Player Photos directory for this league, exclusively for this league. So under Player Photos, I have a folder for Copy of Football 2017. And you can see there are a few blank photos that have been created. Anytime you open a roster for a team, the game will automatically create blank placeholder photos for those players. They take up 0 space, but it tells you who you want to have photos for. So I'm going to make a photo for Mitchell Trubisky. So I like to use the large icon so I could see what's what. So I'll go to the internet, and there's Mitch Trubisky. And this is the photo of him that I want to use. So I right-click and save image as. and I go to the directory, player photos, copy of football 2017, and I want to say, and I left click on the Mitchell Trubisky picture, and you can see in the screen here, it changes the name of the photo that I copied to that, and I save it. Yes, I want to replace it. So now we go to the directory and I have a photo. Now I can't use that photo because it's the wrong size. So I'm going to double click it and bring it up in PC Paint. It's the easiest one you know. The basic size for the photos, what I found that works very well, is 200 pixels wide by 220 pixels high. That's the ratio that seems to work nice. And of course, the smaller you make the photo, the less space it takes on your computer. So I'm going to select what I want to see in this player photo. I kind of like to see him holding the football. Let's see what that does. So I'll crop that out, and I'll resize, change to pixels, and I want 200 horizontal, and it's 217 vertical. Now the difference between 217 and 220, your eyes will never see it. I'll click OK. I'll save that photo, exit, and now you can see I have a Mitchell Trubisky photo that I can use in the game. So let's go back to the game, go to the Chicago Bears, and there on the bottom is Mitch Trubisky. If I open up his player page, he's in the top corner. And that's all there is to it. You can have photos, you can make photos for anybody you want, you can pick the photos you like, on and on. And that's all there is to it. Find photos you like, insert them into the game, and you're off and running. And these photos will appear on the field as you're playing the game. So that's all I have for you guys for this video. The next one's going to get a little bit more in-depth into playing defense, and I'm sure everybody would be happy to see that one. So until next week, adios, muchachos. So until next week, adios, muchachos. Vaya con huevos.